Hello, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Tea, You and Me. This is Coach Powell coming to you live from my office. Just loving the opportunity to work with as many small women and minority-owned entrepreneurs and business leaders as I possibly can. I know you know that this show is dedicated to your success. It's dedicated to your growth and to the development of your business. And I hope you understand that we do this because we're inspired to. Over the years, I've worn so many hats and been on so many boards and so many organizations, all dedicated and focused to helping small women and minority-owned businesses grow. And I want to continue that for the rest of my life because I understand how important it is and how viable we are, and how meaningful it is for us to come together and make sure that we've done everything we need to do. It's happening. For some reason, my guest is trying to get in but can't get in, and maybe they're using the wrong signal, but maybe I may have sent him the wrong link. I have to send him another link. Hold on, guys, and just give me just a second, and I will be right here. Yeah, we found him. We found him. We found him. He found us. We found each other.
Indeed.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Hi, Coach.
Welcome to Coffee Tea. Today, I've got a special guest. Mr. Adam Pressman is going to be with us today. He's going to be sharing some wisdom and some insight as only Mr. Pressman can share to make sure that we know everything we need to know about the habits that we need to engage in and to become when it comes to our business development. Now, he's following up with the amazing Mr. Kevin Williams, who was here last week, who gave us basically 7 habits of highly effective entrepreneurs. But we're not going to bore you with that stuff. We're going to talk to Adam today about what he thinks the habits are. And then I'm going to back him up with some neuroscience and some understanding of what we think habits are, what we think habits are going to be. And I get a chance to introduce him. And I'm going to introduce him to you formally in just a little bit. But I wanted to give him a chance to just tell us, a little bit about himself and who he is, and why he thought to come to the show today. Adam, take it away.
Well, I came to the show today because you asked me to. No, seriously, Coach Powell has put together what I regard as an amazing group of business building professionals. The Leverage Up team and the other folks in his community have shown time and time again they know what it takes to get your business, your mission successful. And it is just a treat to be able to be a part of this. I have made a career out of helping keep bad things from happening to good people. I started out in the security space for a number of reasons that are too long to go into here. I ended up being a business coach and business builder. And I have most recently found that what needs to be done in terms of building businesses these days is help people get access to funding, particularly those who have been left behind in the last 70 years from the capital formation options that are out there, specifically women and minorities. It's been a pleasure to be able to put funds and capabilities and contacts in the hands of these both rising entrepreneurs and people just changing their business for the better. Change of life, people, retirees starting a second business, empty nesters wondering with something to do for a charity. Any of those people can be empowered by developing the right connections, the right competencies, and by making them habits.
Awesome. As I told you guys, we are in for a tremendous show today. I'm so glad to have Adam here. Adam is not just a resource, but an inspiration for so many people. And I have to say, I'm proud that he's one of our Leverage Up family. And I'm hoping that, I know for a fact we're going to create some amazing opportunities for people as we move forward in everything that we do. So thank you for being a partner, Adam. Thank you for being on the show today. I can't wait. After the show today, we're actually going to record a session called Inside the Business Mind, where we're going to take a deep dive with Adam over some things that he and I have discussed in the past, but it's going to be an amazing opportunity. So I can't tell you when it's going to air yet, but stay tuned and pay attention so when the opportunity comes, you need to jump on it. Okay, Adam, I'm going to put you backstage for just a little bit, then we'll bring you back in a little while. Great to see Adam coming on. It's just a great opportunity to have him. You guys know Coffee Tea, You and Me is a love of my heart. I try to make sure that, every Friday I give you gold. I give you good people, good information, good things. And today we're in a series. We're in a series talking about all the things you need to put in place to make sure that your business is successful, not just this year, but every year afterwards. You have to have a good understanding and alignment between your vision, your mission, your goals, your task orientation or your habits, and your people. All of these things have to come together well in order for you not to just be successful, but to thrive. That's what we want you to do. We don't want you to just to have a couple of quick wins here and there. You win a contract, so what? You get an opportunity to do some things at a high level once in a while. So what? How do you sustain? How do you organize, move into legacy building? That's what we're all about. That's what we want to help you create, is the proper foundations that your business can not just be, but thrive. That's what's super important here. So many small businesses, they get started and they're out of business 5 to 6 years later, for whatever reasons, and a myriad of different reasons. But you need to be prepared to be in business and to stay in business and to grow in business, to really, really, really be successful, really, really leave a legacy, to create something that before you did not exist. And so there's so many lessons and so many things that you have to learn, and learning how to control yourself, your habits, is those lessons. Like I said earlier, Kevin Williams talked about a lot of that on last week, and I came up with some ideas and some useful tools and thoughts. We're going to continue that same frame. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to have Adam introduce his thoughts on the kinds of habits that you need to have, and then I'm going to kick in with some of the research and some of the data that I've already uncovered and dealt with, and some of the documents that I put together for you guys that'll be accessible to you. We'll begin to really, really create some understanding. And the next week, we're going to close it out. We're going to finish up with habits, and then we're going to move into how do you develop the proper connections that you have to develop to grow. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel for Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, please do that. Make sure you give us a thumbs up. Make sure you like us. Make sure you follow up with us. If you have a question, a thought that you want to put in the chat, put it in the comment section. And if I can, I'll put it on the screen and I'll air it live. If you have some information you want to share about your business, whether it's just your address, your phone number, your website, whatever that is, put it in the chat, and we'll make sure we take care of that for you. Same thing with you, Adam. You got something you want to show out, you want to share to people out there, put that information in the private chat, and I'll make sure that it gets broadcast for the world to see. Okay. We're going to take a quick little break, and then we will come back after this message. I can find the message. There it is. I love that little graphic logo and how it comes together, because it's just a reminder of kind of what it takes to run a successful business. You got to put all the pieces together, and they have to run well. They can't just put all the pieces together. They also have to fit, and they have to run well, and they have to be streamlined, and you have to be able to create the alignment that I talked to you about. And so I'm glad that my friend put that little commercial together for me, because I really like it. It really appeals to my nerdy side. But without further ado, I want to introduce to you a gentleman who really needs an introduction. I love this. I love how he thinks. I love what he does, what he brings to the table for small businesses all over the country. And just his ideas just are genius when it comes to, understanding how to do the things you need to do to make your business successful. Today, we're talking about habits. And I'm going to ask Adam, tell us, in your
I can't wait to meet this guy.
What is, in your point of view, the best habits that entrepreneurs have to embrace to truly be successful today?
Well, you see, the problem is that habits are very specific to a particular context and a specific person. But I will say that a mindset of perseverance is probably the single descriptive word that matters the most. If you read everything from Malcolm Gladwell to Angela Duckworth, they talk about commitment at 10,000 hours in the case of one, grit in the case of the other. Whatever it is that you do, it's the doing of it that matters. And another favorite author of mine from years ago, Zig Ziglar, said one of my favorite quotes, which was, "Whatever is worth doing badly until you learn to do it well." And I like quotes because they're little snippets of wisdom, but the neat thing about them is how many different people have kind of the same universal grasp on things, which is that simply sticking to it is what seems to be the difference between those who make it and those who don't, and those who do greatness and those who don't. One of the real confusing aspects about business planning is a lot of people will focus on goals, and we're still toward the beginning of the year, and a lot of people have New Year's resolutions and goals. And I have to remind you what James Clear says of Atomic Habits: winners and losers have the same goals. All the corpses on Mount Everest, we're trying to get up there. The issue is not so much that you don't have goals in place, it's that you don't have a system in place. And this the coach was just talking about, it needs to be somewhat automatic how you achieve success, because success is the floor, right? Greatness is the ceiling. Okay. So what we want to do is make sure that if we fail in whatever it is that we pursue, those big dreams we have, those inspirations and aspirations, if we fail, we land on a floor that is supported by the systems that keep our family fed, our income coming in, our worth in the marketplace intact, our bodies fit, and our minds sane and happy. So habits are unconscious manifestations of thought. In other words, you had to think about brushing your teeth when you were 3 and first, or 2, and first taught how to do it. But after a while, you don't have to think about it anymore. You had to think about putting the car in gear, turning the wheel, stepping on the brake when you were 15 or 16. And now you don't have to think about it anymore. So it's an important differentiator when a conscious effort becomes a habit. And I like to tell people that I'm coaching that we're going on a journey from unconscious or incompetence. In other words, you don't know what you need to know to get going, through conscious incompetence. That's usually when they call me. They know there's something that needs to be fixed, but they don't know what it is. Through conscious competence, by thinking you can drive the car, by thinking you can brush your teeth, by thinking you can solve whatever the business challenges there are, through the end state, which is unconscious competence. And the reason we want to make this unconscious is because we are a creative animal. And when we don't have to think about that which makes us successful, we are free to think about that which can make us great. When I talk to businesses about growth or about preparing themselves for an exit or an acquisition, I call a process called enfranchising, which actually means something else about giving people the right to vote. But I love the term as it implies you're going to make a franchise out of what you do. It's an important term because 85% of businesses that are created will fail in the first 5 years. 85% of franchises purchased by new franchise holders will succeed in that same period of time. What's the difference? Every process is laid out. Success is in a book or a guide or somebody's hand on your shoulder to help you get the franchise rolling. When you do that enough times, those procedures and processes become habit, and anyone can do them. Okay, anyone can brush their teeth. Almost pretty much anyone can drive a car. It's the nature of, it doesn't take a lot of thought once we make it a habit. So let's bring that process internal. In anything you're seeking to do, contacting 4 customers on the phone or potential customers on the phone today to get a sale, build a way to make that a habit. So you don't have to think, what do I have to do to get my sales quota up today? Well, I know that if I have 4 meaningful conversations with people every day, the money, the quota will take care of itself. If I know I have to post on LinkedIn new content every week, I know if I write a paragraph a day, I'll have a blog size post by the end. So, and James Clear calls this process atomic habits, getting as small as you possibly can in that process so that the habit is easily obtainable. The part that keeps our habits going is a very old part of our brain. And it's so old, in fact, it doesn't even understand language. What it does understand is feeling. And so it's very important to use things like vision boards, positive reinforcement, having a great conversation with a friend or a spouse that supports what you're doing, so that when you accomplish the thing you're trying to make a habit, you get an emotional uplift, a shot of oxytocin. Coach is going to talk more about the neuroscience behind this, but I read a book about the brain every week because the brain is my workshop. And so I understand the chemistry and the capabilities that are required to take a process, break it into small pieces, make it automatic so that either you or to whom you delegate that process can easily understand it, make it their own, and perform it unconsciously. When you've done that, it becomes a system. And if that system is maintained, it'll never let you down. And then that provides that floor I mentioned. You will never drop below it because the strength of your systems are such to keep you from doing that. And then you can rise above that with the creative parts, the things you haven't thought of yet, to make yourself move up the ladder into greatness. In developing your systems, one of the things that's important to understand is we all have the exact same amount of time. We all have lots of activities and distractions. So the first question you must ask yourself is, what am I willing to sacrifice to accomplish my goal? You do have to have goals. What is that goal? What that goal is it? What's on your vision board? And you have to ask yourself, what am I willing to sacrifice to get what it is that I want? Because if you don't have an answer to that question, what you're sacrificing is what you want. When you've made that sacrifice, the next step is, what conditions do I have to put in place to make achieving my goal inevitable? I love that word. It's going to happen all by itself, no matter what. So that means being in a context, a place to work, an environment of people, a network that's supportive, a calm and capable mind, the skill set that you require, or the assistance of others, all have to be there to make sure that that system of yours can move smoothly through where you are to where you want to be. And I think if you do that and let habits therefore get to your success level, you will find awakening in you that which will take you to greatness.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. As I knew you would be, of course you are. Two books I want to mention. You mentioned one, The Atomic Habit. I want to mention this book. This is The Power of Habit by Mr. Duhigg. If you can't see it, it's Charles Duhigg wrote this book. Amazing, amazing, amazing work. You know, another person, I think this guy actually was one of the authors of the book which you mentioned already. BJ Fogg wrote Tiny Habits, Small Changes That Change Everything. Super, super, super important that you kind of you can't just think of habits as something you do. Yes, they are something that you do, but there's something that you do often unconsciously. And so understanding how to bring consciousness to your habit formation is key to controlling the outcomes and creating the outcomes that you want to create, because your habits do in fact create your reality. You know, the things that you actually do create the possibilities for your existence today. Now, understand that there's a lot going on in our lives. And one of the greatest examples I could give you is I recently put together a puzzle. And this puzzle was put together, a 1,000-piece puzzle was put together by my family, my wife and I. And we sat down and we watched our daughter, who is 24 and she has ADD. And she's able to see all the pieces at the same time. While my wife and I are looking for one piece to fit in one place, she's seeing all the pieces come together, even if they're upside down or right side forward or whatever. None of that matters to her. She's able to just see the puzzle come together and then put it together. She can't explain the process. But because of the way her brain has always been trained to think, she thinks divergently, right? Which means she can intake tons of information simultaneously into her brain, while we have to, in order to make sense of it, have to focus, and we miss thousands of pieces of connections and thousands of things our brain can do. So this lets you know there's a possibility, and I began to really understand there's a possibility for all of us to open our minds up, to see things differently, to create different points of view, even within our own brain, and then act accordingly to all of these different points of view and all these different thoughts and all these different ways of formation. And those things become the things we use to form our habits, our activities. And we can do this on purpose. The strategy that I'm describing right now is a strategy that is recently, I would say in the last 30 years or so, becoming more and more and more of a science. It's called mindfulness. You know, understanding how you're thinking, what you're thinking, and choosing to think about the things that you want to think about most often, and accepting the things that are bad, but letting them go right past. So we're going to give you some techniques about that a little bit later. But when it comes to your habit formation, understand that it starts with your mind. It starts with your ability to begin to control the first process. Now, some of these books will mention there's a habit formula, right? There's a trigger, there's a response, and then there's a reward, even for your unconscious habits. If you unpack them, if you think about it, you ask yourself, well, why do I do this way? You can unpack and begin to discover for yourself, what is my trigger that makes me do this? What is the reward for me really? Is it safety? Is it comfort? Is it a feeling of accomplishment? What is it that's causing me to continue to do this over and over and over again? And if you can begin to, if you understand that system, then you can begin to hijack your own habits and go, oh, okay, I'll just keep this, I'll get rid of this reward, and then I won't need the trigger, or I'll get rid of the trigger and then I won't have to engage in the habit, because if the trigger happens automatically, then I'm going to engage in the habit automatically, and I'm going to experience whatever I experience. And the reward, even though the reward is great, it might not be good for you long term. Like if you love cookies, as I love cookies, especially chocolate chip with any kind of nuts or almonds in them, I can't have them in the house. If I have them in the house and I know exactly where they are, the chances are I'm going to find a way to begin the process of eating the cookie. Now, because the process of eating the cookie is so satisfactory, I'm not going to stop at one. I'm going to have two, maybe three. And sometimes unconsciously, before I'm even aware that I'm doing it, I ate the whole pack. So you have to understand that there's triggers to all of our habits. And most of them are unconscious, especially the bad ones. We have to get conscious. We have to become conscious of them first. We have to become mindful first, and then we can change the habit. Let me give you some information. I love the quotes. Thank you for even mentioning that. One of my favorite quotes, and this is actually the most popular quote from the Bible on habits. And I'm only mentioning this not because I want you to go out and become whatever you need to become spiritually, whatever that is. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the wisdom of the people who wrote this book years ago. Here's what they said: do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God and what is good and acceptable and perfect. Now, if you take any mention of God out of that, what you basically have is a description of some of the greatest minds that have ever existed, who written about and said, listen, you can allow yourself to be controlled and conformed by the world, or you can take the time to renew your own mind. Make sure you test it. Don't just accept it, but you can take the time to renew your own mind. And when you are in control of your own mind, you are in control of your own habits, and this can be acceptable and perfect. Now, the pursuit of perfection, I believe, is something that we should all try to get to, knowing that we're not always going to get there. But I love that quote. I love that thought process because it reminds us that we are in control of the good and the bad of this thing. We don't have to be subject to the whims of the world. We don't have to subject to, our own desires and succumb to them. We could resist them and we could do things. And we're going to talk about some of the things you can do to change them. Gandhi said in his quote that I'm going to share with you something amazing that began to indicate to me that there's a magic recipe to this habit thing that people have known for centuries. We just don't apply it very well in today's reality. I would suggest there's a habit recipe in this quote that I'm about to share with you. Gandhi says some of the world's most prolific writers and thinkers have shared some wonderful thoughts on habits. He said, your beliefs become your thoughts. Your thoughts become your words. Your words become your actions. Your actions become your habits. Your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. So where does habits fit in that train of thoughts, words, actions, values, and destiny? Habits fit almost right in the middle of that train of all those words when you put them all together. First is your thoughts, right? What you think, you start to build a narrative around what you think. You start to tell yourself, this is what's it, this is what's true, this is what's good, this is what's wise, this is what's smart, this is what's tangible, right? That's the narrative you're telling yourself, the words. Those words then help you formulate and become the actions that you take. Those actions are, in fact, your habits. Now, if you're taking actions that validate the values that you have, those values, when you put them all together and you perform because of those values consistently, guess what? There's pretty much a clear trajectory to what your destiny is going to be. So if you habitually lie, you habitually steal, you habitually cheat, you habitually try to avoid dealing with problems what is your trajectory to success? Anybody who has lived for any amount of time can tell you it's not a good trajectory. But if your habit is to be honorable, if your habit is to be true, if your habit is to move in faith, if your habit is to love and be kind and be gentle with people that you find that you come in contact with, then you have a different trajectory. Now, I understand things happen. We become anger. We become fearful. We become shameful. We doubt. All these things that some of the great coaches and friends that I deal with, talk about all the time. Brene Brown talks about fear, shame, blame, and guilt all the time. And she's the genius in America's genius on these topics in terms of how we should regulate ourselves and deal with them. But there's so much that we can do. First, we have to understand what we're talking about. What are habits? Habits are your settled and regular tendencies or practices, and they're hard to give up. Once they're ingrained into your life, into your world, the longer they've been there, the more your brain has built basically not just memory, but instant access to whatever information it needs to have to act automatically. Adam already said it. He's your automatic pilot, your automatic governing system, the thing that happens automatically, and your body becomes conditioned. It becomes a part of your natural constitution. These are your habits. There's also need to understand the difference between habits and task orientation is this. Task orientation is more about your motivation. It's more about you understanding it and being able to understand the triggers that create the habits. What's your motivation? What is the thing that's making you even want to do that perform the habit that you're performing? How do you have full command over your desire, over your motivation, over your will, right? Because if you can master that thing, guess what? You can become the master of yourself. and you can master a task if you keep training yourself, because you're going to keep, your mind is going to go all over the place, right? But the point is, if you are conscious and you are mindful of what you're doing, you can always move yourself back into the proper task orientation. And I'm going to talk to you about the last 10 benefits of good habits as designed by my friends at joyfulthroughitall.com. And they say that there are 10 great habits. First 10 great benefits to good habits, right? First, if you have good habits, you can replace your bad habits. That's benefit number one. Benefit number two, you can reach your goals better, faster, stronger, with more effectiveness than when you have bad habits, if you replace them with good habits. Number three, you can increase your productivity and your efficiency. Number four, you can be your best self. This one I love more than anything else. Because when you're walking in every day knowing that you're being your best self, the confidence boost that you give yourself is incredibly powerful. And when you show up in the world as a confident person, people read you as a competent person. And that becomes the brand that you carry around with you every single day. But you got to be in control of yourself in order to get there. Number five, improving your quality of life. Truly important. Number six, you will better your mood. It is hard to have a person who is generally experiencing and expressing good positive habits all day, every day. It's hard to turn them around because they're turned on by themselves. Others don't affect them. In fact, number seven says you get to boost your energy levels. How would you like to be turned on by yourself, for yourself all day? You know, moving at high levels, right? They call that you're getting in your mojo all the time, or you're always feeling in flow state, like Michael McChitney might say, right? You're always experiencing that high energy. You're always experiencing why? Because the habits that you have are there. I'll tell you another personal example. You know, I got horrible knees. I got arthritic knees. I have no cartilage left in either one of my knees, and they've been trying to replace them for the last decade. But I understand that as long as I get on my recumbent bike and I work out every day, I have less pain and I can move around and do the things I need to do, and it doesn't affect me as badly as someone who's sedentary all the time. Because I strengthen those muscles in my legs, I'm having less knee pain because I'm having more synovial fluid going through my joints, and I'm supporting the strengthening. So this is all physics, right? But the reality is I'm using my body so that I don't lose my body. And this, again, keeps me having a high energy level, because if it hurts to get up and it hurts to move around, then you don't want to do those things. But if you exercise and you move and you stretch and you create, the resistance that you need to have to strengthen your muscles, even when your structure, your bones are not doing so well, your other body parts compensate for it and the pain is less and you can still function. Because then that's all about it. You got to be able to function, right? Number 8, bringing out the winner inside of you. And I totally believe this one. Inside of each and every one of us, there's a winner. There's gratitude. There is somebody who's had some level of privilege. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, people haven't been oppressed and people haven't been downtrodden and people haven't been left behind. They have. But everyone, to a certain degree, has some level of privilege, because privilege is something that someone gives you because they love you, just because of the grace of themselves. And they could care less about who you are, what you've done. All they want to do is love on you. We've all had some level of that somewhere, somehow in our lives. And that privilege itself turns into something that you can rely on, something that you can believe in, something that you can have faith on. And that becomes a part that you can always turn around into something to be grateful for, something to be gratitude for, and to build on that to create the life that you want to create. So use your privilege, wherever that is, or whoever the privilege is, find it, think about it, assess it, and then see if you can leverage it. If you can't figure that out, come to Leverage Up conference, and we'll tell you we'll show you how to leverage your privilege. All right. You can, because the winner inside of you, when you understand that winner inside of you, you can do number 9, which is the benefit of becoming a resource for others. Every one of us has some resource in excess. It might be our talent. It might be our treasure. It might be the the time that we have that's in excess of what we need. Whatever that is, those resources can be valuable to someone else. Your job is literally to go find people who need the extra that you have and share it with them. And you'll find that you'll reach fulfillment a lot faster than people try to hoard stuff, try to control everything. Number 10, you can generate lifelong wellness habits. Again, if you're mindful, if you're thoughtful about these things, if you plug into your community, if you plug into the things that make you tick, the values that you embrace, the faith systems that you believe in, you plug into all those things and you'll find that there are clear habits that you know you should have and clear habits that you know you shouldn't. And so your job then is to develop those better habits that get you to the places that you want to go, that help you express and become the person that you want to become. I got some good friends out there, guys. If you got a business, if you got some things that you want to share, feel free to put them in the chat. I got some thank yous and some attaboys. Miss Candace Habib says we all do things because there's a payoff. Exactly. She's super right about that. Our habits are built on those payoffs. Whether the payoffs are conscious or unconscious, there's something we like about us doing what we do, and we have to be careful about those things. Anything that we talked about, Adam, that inspires any other thoughts or ideas that maybe you have generated?
What a fantastic list, first of all, Coach. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that people don't often grasp right away, because I think of habits as things we do with our hands, feet, and mouth, and certainly that's a big part of them. But attitude is a habit of thought.
Mm-hmm.
So a number of the things in the top 10 are oriented around mindfulness and understanding your mind. One little strategy that I use in my coaching practice, and I suspect you do the same, is, people are saying there's a lot of stuff going on here. How do I take some action? Again, hands, feet, and mouth. A daily journal is where we probably mostly start. I've had people write down every 15 minutes of their life when they get, because they write down what they did, because what they did was a product of what they thought, very likely, and they can take a look at a week or two of that. It doesn't have to be a year. I would say a month would be an amazing amount, a lot of data. You'll see when you were down, what you were doing, when you were up, what you were doing. If at the same time every day you're taking a walk, that's a pointer that you need to exercise at that point in time of day. And stacking habits, let's see, if you know you're going to take a walk, or you let walk the dog, well then jog with him or something at the same time. Add another habit to that. Both small habits and atomic habits use the same idea of habit stacking. If you get up to get a cup of coffee, this is a time to maybe do a couple of quick walks on the treadmill while it's brewing. Those kinds of things. So it's all about training your brain as well as your body.
My God.
To make a system that will never fail you. Okay. Athletes, they ride, they run, they do push-ups in the rain, right? But don't beat yourself up about it. If you miss one day, you just tell yourself, I am the sort of person who chooses not to miss more than 2 days of a workout. I am the sort of person who chooses not to eat the whole box of cookies. Never you shouldn't do that. It's I'm the sort of person who chooses. One of the things on my desktop says, how would the person I long to be acting right now? Am I proud of what I'm doing right now? Okay, our brain is designed to handle stories and questions and answers really well. So asking yourself a question comes up with a great answer. I used to be a great believer in affirmations. I'm a great salesman. I'm a great leader. Now I ask myself, why am I a great salesman? And boom, a zillion things pop into my head to answer that question. That's what way the brain works. Why am I a great singer in my band? A bunch of things come up, So the other thing that I have on there, this is really important. We've thrown a lot of books and quotes and other things at you, and this very notion of you being here and listening passively to two coaches run their mouths. The important question to ask yourself: do I actually need more information, or do I simply need to act on the information I already have? Spend the life You spend your
Okay,
life
before you keep going,
thinking about how to do this.
I got Adam. I got to stop you because this is just you're dropping nuggets of wisdom here. You're dropping gold here, and I want people to recognize this. Adam just shared with you guys what happens when you actually get control of your habits. You can create synergy and stack the habits. Let me just say this again so that you understand it. The more you take the time to become mindful of exactly what you're doing and ask yourself why you're doing the things that you're doing, the more you become controlled, the more you can begin to think consciously about doing things because that's those things you want to do. Now, the more you get control of those things, the more you can begin again to analyze them, the more energy you have to figure out how to become more efficient in them. And one of those levels of efficiency that Adam just mentioned to you is to create synergy by mixing the positive habits. Think of it almost like a positive habit gumbo. You know, if you were to be able to say, let me just get my best habits and throw them all together in one big magic mumbo sauce, right? And then all of a sudden, then you could just go, like, what? This is magic time. So at 3 o'clock every day, I'm gonna do my magic time. Whatever the best time of the day is works for you, right? Then you got an hour where you just like cranking out the magic. I promise you, you're going to end that session, whatever that time is, you're going to end that session with some love for yourself, some drive, some determination, some resilience, some fortitude, all those things that Adam mentioned in terms of your attitude are going to be much improved because you've learned how to stack those positive habits. We need to write a book, Adam. We're going to call it the Habit Gumbo.
That sounds
You
like
know,
a great idea.
that's what we need to do. I think that's stacking those habits and creating the gumbo. Oh man, So anyway, anything else you want to share with us, Adam, before we call the party to a close?
Well, I would, I'm sure you ask these people, so I'm going to ask them, this is a reinforcement. What are you going to do with what you learned today? What's the next thing you're going to do with your hands, feet, and mouth to make the things we've talked about today part of the system of habits that you have? Because knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. And when you put these things to work for you and build a system that is unconsciously achieving the goals you want, the freedom you will have to, again, success is the floor, greatness is the ceiling. You'll be able to climb that ladder to that ceiling no matter how high because of the reinforcement you've set up and the ability to, that attitude, that habit of thought, that attitude. You can accomplish this.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, again, if you have any questions that you want to put through that you even think of later on as you watch this, if you're watching a recording of this and you have questions, feel free to put those questions in the chat. Feel free to, whether you're watching this on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or on YouTube, because we can always go back and answer the question. And if we can't answer the questions, guess what? Somebody else in the audience that might be able to just share their insight and wisdom with you. And so don't think that, you need to sit in a less than mindset or a diminishing strategy for yourself, because this is all we're going to give you all kinds of tools throughout the next couple of weeks that you need to think about how you're going to put them in place. Like I said, you can write all the things down you want in your strategy. You can do all the great, analysis of what you think you should be doing, but the real question is, how are you going to do it, and when are you going to do it, and what are you going to, what's going to reinforce you doing it? Are you going to get in? Are you going to do the things you need to reinforce you? I don't have cookies in the house. Why? Because I'm not in control of that thing, yet when it happens. Now, after I've been able to do this for about 21 days or so, I might be able to bring cookies in the house and then not have the trigger. I doubt it, but I will continue to endeavor to test, right? Like I told you guys earlier, from the most ancient wisdom I know in the Bible says, test it. Don't just take it for granted. Test it. Think about it, analyze it, find those ways. Because man, if you can create that habit gumbo, man, I do it all the time, and I'm telling you, I renew my own energy every time I engage in the positive habits that I know that reinforce not just what I am or who I am, but whose I am. I understand that I'm a person that's connected to a community, that's connected to a family, that's connected to a whole chain of people who my success affects their success. And so my ability to take responsibility for myself and what I bring to the table and my contribution is at a very high level. It wasn't that way 20 years ago, but it is now because I've been practicing these things. I've been practicing mindfulness. I'm taking my 4th mindfulness course right now. You think this is something that you can learn and be done with. No. Life is a lifelong learning opportunity. And it's always something more. I'm still taking coaching classes. I'm still taking classes about economics. I'm still taking classes, and I majored in economics. I'm still taking classes. Right now I'm taking classes on semiconductors, a brand new field. But I'm finding that, guess what? It's not as new as I might have thought it was when I first started initially taking the class. I'm like, wait a minute. I learned this in physics a long time ago, but guess what? I still have it. It's still in there. I just need to pull it back to consciousness, right? And create habits around it. And now all of a sudden I can master it. So this is true for all of us. I'm not unique and special. I'm not super talented or super bright like Adam, but I endeavor to continue the effort of trying.
Don't sell yourself short. Hey, listen, we got
Adam,
a great
if
comment.
you don't have any last words.
We had a great comment from Candace Habib that points out something important. She says, must execute no matter how uncomfortable. One of the things you'll hear about from people, and it's always long after they became successful in their field, is I followed my passion. It's crap. There was big chunks of time when that actor, that basketball player, that movie, that politician hated it, but they were good at it. So I ask people to think about their craft and do it. And when it's pouring outside and you're a runner, or when you have no resources and you're an artist, or you don't have the guitar and you're a musician, you'll find a way to do your craft, what you're good at. Do what you're good at. The passion will take care of itself.
Oh yes, it will. It absolutely will. And that's where you have to have the faith that everyone before you who has done something incredible has already had. So that gives you an understanding that it's also possible. Human beings have done amazing things throughout the course of time and history. And so we have the same capacity that Einstein had. We have the same capacity that Thoreau had. We had the same capacity, that some of the greatest thinkers and some of the greatest achievers in the history. Why can't I be just as smart as Pythagoras? Yes, I can. And that's the thing that I think I always ask my clients a lot of times, when they're talking about their profession or whatever the occupation is, it's like, do you want, and I ask them quite frankly, do you want to be one of the best that's ever lived at what you do? And if you don't, that's fine. But what is it that you want to be the best at, whatever it is? Because it might be a hobby you have. It might be, it might not be your profession. If it is your profession, lucky you that you get to do the thing you love doing, because most people don't. But find the thing that you do love doing and figure out how you can use whatever you're using right now to do it at a high level. Because if not, then, your passions and your fulfillment is going to be greatly diminished. My friend Hiram Smith, who's the creator of the Franklin Covey system, the Franklin system before it became Franklin Covey as a system, used to say, when you basically got control over your life, your calendar, your notes, your contacts, your lists, everything like that, you got control over yourself. Now you have a claim, a credible claim to happiness. When you don't have control over what you're doing and why you're doing, how you're doing it, when you're doing it, maybe you don't have a credible claim to joy, fulfillment, happiness, all the things that make life worth living. because you're not living on purpose. You're living kind of by accident. And you might be happy now, but I got to tell you, crash and burn is coming. It's coming at some point, and you have to live through it. You're gonna have to learn how to be resilient. And if you have no practice,
or you advocate that resilience to someone else.
Yeah. That gives me, in fact, you mentioned that makes me think of one thing that we talked about a lot of times when it comes to this social media thing. Earlier on, so many people try to use social media as another form of marketing, like another form of media or advertising. And they really miss the mark, because the first word in social media is social. This is an opportunity to connect. This is an opportunity to share what's in you with what's in others. And in doing so, elevate both of you. And instead of figuring out, or all of us, right? The crowd can work, right? It works better. And what you do, Adam, and what you've discovered in these crowd systems and crowdfunding opportunities is really that we all get to play in the success of each other if we think of this correctly. This is what crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, crowd opportunities are all about. It's about everybody coming together to play. But now, when you allow selfishness and greed to get in front of what's best for the crowd, then that's something that you can't hold on to, because you're not going to be able to keep that success. There's so many people, and I won't mention any names or former presidents or anything, who, you can't keep the success that you didn't earn rightfully. You just can't. The system doesn't work that way. If you don't understand that, if you didn't rightfully earn it, you're not going to be able to keep it. There's another book I'm reading called The Earned Life. This is an incredible book. But Jesus, just so many things for you guys to talk about, to learn. I hope you guys had a good time. We're getting to the close of our session today. I'm going to say goodbye to Adam as I close things out. Thank you so very much, Adam. Stay in the backstage for a second, because we got to come back and record our next thing, but I got to make sure I get the links right and all that kind of stuff, so don't go anywhere. Adam and I are going to have a great session. We're going to do it inside the business mind of Adam Pressman, and I'm going to ask him some deep penetrating questions. You guys are going to love what comes out of this, so pay attention to our next couple live episodes, because as I do this, I'm probably going to broadcast Adam's session, or maybe it depends, because Adam's pretty good. I may have to broadcast Adam's stuff, I don't know, 20 times. I've never done that before, but it's so good. He's such a precious mind, and I just love having him around. And so I got a feeling that we're going to get into some deep, meaningful stuff. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for paying attention. Candace, Jim, Sean, everybody out there. I see you, Coach James Buns, my boy. I'm so glad that you tuned in. I thank you. I got to get you back on the show, man. You got to stop being in the audience. I got to put you on Front Street, because she's another one of those great coaches out there. Again, a great mind. If you get a chance to work with Coach Bonds, definitely do so. He's just a super amazing talent. Okay. All right. This is Coffee Tea, You and Me, guys. We do this every week. Do this for the benefit of the small women and minority-owned communities. I know it's lonely out there. I know you don't always have the best people to surround yourself with. You don't always have the time to do this kind of personal development and professional development, but you should be taking the time. And so I make it easy for you. Here's the show. Here's the information. If you need anything, my number's on the screen. Don't hesitate to call me. Don't hesitate to, email, whatever it is you need to do, reach out. And if I don't reach out to you, bug me. I'm giving you permission. Don't have a question that goes unanswered. You don't have, I'm giving you the rights. I know anybody you need to know, I can connect you, not a problem. But you got to ask. You got to get engaged. You got to try. All right. God loves you. I love you too. And we are out of here. Thank you guys so much. And then this